Hello, my name is Caitlin, and this video is my favorite books of 2020. I have 5 books from 2020 and 5 books prior to 2020, but these 10 books make up my favorites out of the 100 that I read this year. If you want to know the 100 that I've read this year, I did just post a video on my tech channel, the 100 books that I've read in 2020 and all the stats and breakdown of the genres and gender and publication and all of that fun stuff. So if you're interested in that and you haven't watched that video, go check that out. I'll put a link in the description box if you do want to, or if you haven't checked it out. But my guess is you probably come from there. So hopefully you did watch that. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully you make a cool, lofty book goal as well. Now this video, I don't want to make it super long, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So I'm going to start with the 5 books that were published in 2020 that I really enjoyed. Now this was actually very difficult to come up with just 5 because I probably could have easily doubled out. I read a lot of fantastic books this year, and a lot of really fantastic tech and science books specifically. So picking from those, it was very difficult. I wanted to put one fiction book in there that I really enjoyed, so I'll start with that. I did read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I think he's a fantastic writer, and this book just was very endearing. I think it's a very important read for a lot of people that may be struggling with life and just their decisions and what they've done with their lives and regrets and wishing things had turned out differently. I think this book was a very nice perspective on what really that could mean. It is very fantastical. I put it in fantasy genre. I don't know if it actually belongs in there, but to me it was read like a fantasy book. A girl who is on the precipice of death, instead of just immediately dying, she finds herself in a library where a librarian shows her books of if her life had taken a different route, as if it is the multiverse, and we have all the branches of the tree of all of our different decisions, and what would have happened in her life if she married the man she was meant to marry, as opposed to what she really did, which was cancel the wedding. And so it was very interesting to see just, that breakdown. It just gives you an interesting perspective on things that you may regret in your life, and just sometimes the road that we're on it for a reason, and we got here with all of our bad and good choices. So if you're looking for an endearing fiction book, I do highly recommend Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Then the next book that I recommend is a nonfiction. In fact, all the rest of them are nonfiction. This book is Range. I did read this at the beginning of the year. It is by David Epstein, and it's Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. And I highly recommend this book to anyone who considers themselves a generalist. You know that phrase like, a jack of all trades, a master of none? I always feel like people like that are kind of like, not like looked down upon, but kind of looked down upon, as opposed to when you have somebody who excels at one specific thing. He uses the example, of course, of like Tiger Woods, who is fantastic at golf, but that's really like his claim to fame, of course. Like that's his life is just golf. Really, in this day and age, it's really generalists, people that can gravitate from different areas or to different areas quickly and are moldable and quickly learn and pick up things that are not afraid of leaving their one specialty. I do think a lot has to do with the internet and the fact that we have so many things at our fingertips right now. It's just so easy to go and learn new skills, become a new person, take a different route in life, that pivoting is become much easier than in years past. So I do think that we have the internet to thank a lot for that, and that does also make it easier. But I also look at a lot of jobs, especially in tech and security, the areas that I'm know most about, and I do find that sometimes people that can pick up new techniques or skills on the job, or can offer a lot of variety in different areas, are often ones that will succeed as opposed to maybe a person that only knows one thing and maybe they know it really well. Now, granted, I'm not saying that that person that knows the one thing really well isn't going to succeed. That's definitely not the case. I'm just saying that I do think it is a good time that generalists are excelling. Another one of my favorites was Girl Decoded by Rana El Kaloubi. I just really, really love this book. It reads more like a biography, and that it also involves a lot of tech because she is an engineer and focuses on AI, and her specialty is with emotional intelligence. And I do think that emotional intelligence is really, really key, not only for humans, but also for artificial intelligence, because how can we create appropriate AI without considering what makes us human and adding in that intelligence into their programming. I think that we are already kind of missing the mark with that and aspects of AI, and she's doing a really good job of trying to add the emotional intelligence back into AI. The book itself, it follows pretty much her whole life. She starts off in Egypt, and just, you know, all of the trials and tribulations of a female in tech. And I love these books because, one, there aren't that many, and whenever I do read them, I just feel so touched and like happy to read about a female in tech who is doing amazing, wonderful things, even though she's you know, met challenges and various roadblocks because of either her gender or religion, or where she's from, just a variety of things, just how she was able to do it all and excel, and what she's doing today for AI. And so, one of my absolute favorite books of the year. Another favorite that I read at the beginning of the year, which is kind of unfortunate because I feel like I read so long ago that I don't remember all the wonderful details, but that was Super Pumped by Mike Isaac, The Battle for Uber, and holy smokes, what a company. If you follow me on Twitch, you know that there are quite a few tech companies that I'm always digging into because a lot of them have ridiculous, absurd practices, whether it regards to data privacy or just weird things that they do, and marketing tactics, and just a whole variety of things that I strongly disagree with and bring into a lot of discussion on ethics. And this book was great and I really enjoyed it. Uber is Uber's a crazy company, and its founder is also crazy. I think it's a great book, especially with regards to tech startups, just because it gives you really those perils of those startups and those founders that just do ridiculously absurd things, and you're just like, how are you all like this? I don't get it. It almost reads like what not to do as a tech startup. As somebody who has lots of dreams of having her own tech startup one day, I definitely look at this and think, that's not going to be the startup that I create. But Mike Isaac goes into great depths of the unicorn that was Uber and all they've done. They're still in the news today about the way they treat their employees and just ridiculous practices that they have going on, and a variety of legal battles. It's just absurd, and it's very unfortunate. Use Lyft. Lyft seems much better. And then my last favorite book for 2020 was A Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough. And honestly, this book just touched my heart and soul. If you're not familiar with David Attenborough, where have you been? He has all those wonderful nature series from the BBC and has been doing it for a heck of a long time. And I think the interesting thing about this book is that yes, it's about climate change, and yes, it's about the craziness that is happening to our planet. But the interesting thing is that this is coming from a first-hand perspective. David Attenborough has seen what it was like years ago, like back when color television was just starting. to today, where now we have our reefs bleached and our icebergs melting and our rainforests getting chopped down at insane speeds. He has seen so much, and his perspective is like, you just can't argue with it because the man was there. And the man saw it and he documented it, and he's telling us today that the changes that he saw over this short period of time is monumental. And I'm like, I get like emotional just thinking about it, because it's truly heartbreaking. So this one small book, which obviously touched my heart and soul very much, it already had like affected me, even though I'm, fully aware of climate change and what's happening to the planet right now, and I am accepting, and like I try to be a good human being, and I don't know, limit my waste and stuff. But I find myself after reading that book and just reading it from like a real human perspective, to appreciate much more the things that I am buying at the grocery store. Like, are these coming in packages of plastic? Are these going to be in the ocean forever? I've actually stopped eating a lot of meat, and not even consciously. I just gravitated away from it after reading this book. I found myself preparing more vegan meals, and just not buying meat when I'm at the grocery store or out. Well, nobody's going to restaurants right now, or at least I'm not. But yeah, like fish, I know a lot of people talk about how wonderful fish is for you, but fish is one of the ones that I've actually steered away from. And it's probably because I read another book about fish this past year, which was also fantastic, and it just barely missed my top 5. I'll put it here just as like an honorable mention. But the trawlers that scrape the ocean floor of every living creature, I just like, oh my goodness, it's insanity to me. And I know that there are starving people on the planet, but there has to be more sustainable ways of maintaining our ecosystems and planet, while also providing for the humans that live on it. And there's so much waste, and there's so many things that we can do to change our projection. And oh goodness, 2020 was already a rough year. This is a rough book to read, but there is also hope, and there's a lot of good things that are coming, and a lot of brilliant people working on what we can hopefully do with regards to climate change. So all hope is not lost. I believe that us brilliant human beings are gonna figure out something. All right, that leaves the 5 books that were not published in 2020. So these books are my favorite books published prior to 2020. The first one is Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men. I have talked a lot about Cormac McCarthy. He's definitely one of my favorite authors. The Road is absolutely fantastic. However, I really enjoyed No Country for Old Men. I know a lot of people will say Blood Meridian is the best Cormac McCarthy. I thought Blood Meridian was good, but there were parts of it I had to slog through, and I always like remember those parts or books that if there's any slogging. And No Country for Old Men had no slogging. It has one of the truly best formidable characters in Anton Sugar, and I just, if you've watched the movie, they actually did a fantastic job with the movie too. But the book is just, it's really, it's Cormac McCarthy's way of writing, his dialogue, his like, just what he's able to put on the pages by not putting it on the pages. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just, I thought this work was brilliant, and it's my favorite out of the McCarthy books that I've read. And yeah, if you want to read a cool book. I do highly recommend this. Then from the nonfiction side, I do highly recommend reading Carlo Rovelli's book, Reality is Not What It Seems and The Order of Time. Both of these were fantastic. I think I liked Reality is Not What It Seems a little bit more. It is the journey to quantum gravity. One of the things I do like about Carlo Rovelli's writing is that it is a bit poetic, and he adds these elements of beauty into physics, which is kind of interesting to say. A lot of the content in here definitely does go over my head, but I still find it really enjoyable. And I think for a science writer to be able to pull that off it just says a lot about his writing and his abilities. And so if you are interested in physics or anything regarding time or quantum reality, then I do highly recommend either of these books. Both of these were fantastic, and I need to see if he has more. Oh, he also has 7 Brief Lessons on Physics. I haven't read that one, so maybe that'll be for 2021. And then another favorite of mine that totally blew me away, and I was not expecting it, was War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. It's so interesting to me when I read older books. And I am just enthralled by them. I don't know what's wrong with me and why I think older books are not going to be entertaining or hold my interest. I think it goes back to like in high school, and they sometimes make you read these books that are just like, oh, like they're just not fun. And so I feel like sometimes when I look at books that are really, really old, like H.G. Wells published in the 1800s, kind of expect that, but that is not the case. This was fantastic. The only reason I actually read this book is because I recently saw the movie, and I thought to myself, I wonder what the book is like. And so I decided to read the book, and honestly, I couldn't put it down. I think I finished it in a day. It was just so good. The movie actually followed the book really well, so props to Steven Spielberg and Tom Cruise. I didn't realize how well it followed it, just like a modern take on it, of course. But yeah, man, if you want to read a really cool old school sci-fi, H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, highly recommend. I need to read more of his books this year. And then to wrap up this last book favorite of 2020 that wasn't written in 2020 is Machines Like Me by Ian McEwan. So this writer, I had no idea, wrote one of my least favorite books also. I have to sneeze. Wrote one of my least favorite books, and that was The Cement Garden. I just really didn't like that book. Maybe I'll talk about that book another time. But I didn't realize that this was actually the same author until I was going through my Goodreads stats, and I saw it's the same author. He also wrote Atonement, so I'm going to read that, and hopefully that'll be like the bridge that gaps, the bridge that gaps these two, whatever. That brings the books together maybe, or explains why these books are so different. Cement Garden, I didn't like. Machines Like Me, I loved. Now, the book is really weird. It is a alternative reality during the time of Alan Turing, where robots have actually been created to be lifelike, hence the name Machines Like Me. And you can buy a robot as like a companion, and the robot will do things like cook for you and clean and hang out, have conversations, and they talk about in the book how they go to the store and the robot is mistaken for a human because he's so lifelike. And so it's a very interesting story. Also, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but what ends up happening with the robots is also very interesting, and it's a very interesting take on like the singularity, I guess, you know, AI and the consciousness of AI and their perspective on human beings and what we are doing to them. And so if you're interested in AI, or you love robots, or you like seeing more like a sci-fi take on a different perspective, I do recommend this book. I've recommended it to a few other people. I don't know if they've actually liked it, but I really enjoyed this book. I love like a unique perspective of things like, or an alternative history like this, or, you know, the what ifs of AI and our future of, when we eventually get there, of robots and you know, when they become a little bit more self-aware. because they're a little far away from that. But I really enjoyed this book, and I'm excited to read his other books, hopefully this year as well. Seems like a lot of my favorites I'm gonna be reading more from the authors. Anyway, that wraps up my favorite books for 2020. If you read any favorites, please put them in the comments below. I love reading what other people have read, just to see, you know, what other people are loving out there. So if you read any favorite books this year, if you read any books this year that are your favorites, then put them in the comments below. Join me in Goodreads. You can see all the books that I'm reading, have read, all my ratings, all that. If you want, my profile is in the description box below. If you want to see more book-related videos like this, I do have a lot more videos coming out regarding books because I can never stop talking about them apparently. So we're just gonna put them into videos. Then join the channel, subscribe, like the video, follow me on all the social media. If you want to see my tech channel is also linked in the description box below. I have a Substack for books. If you want even more content about books, I'm telling you, I literally can't stop talking about books. If you want even more, my Substack is also in the description. Each week I'm posting 5 bookish things, about 5 things that I've learned from books this week, or about books, or just little things about books, and then more content. It's kind of like a newsletter format where you can get it emailed to you, or you could just see it on the website. So if you want to add your email address in there to get notified when I do post a new newsletter, you can join the Substack in the link below. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I love talking about books. Oh my God, how many times am I gonna say there's something wrong with me. Thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.